Welcome to class 2 of our heart-centered yoga. Today we're going to start, let's just take a moment seated and we'll go over those triangles again that we went over last week. So sitting up nice and tall, close your eyes, relax your shoulders down. Take a couple deep breaths in through your nose, out through your mouth. Just a little refresher on the triangles. So you want to think of one triangle, your neck triangle. The base of the triangle comes from one shoulder to the other. And then the two sides kind of reach up and come to a point somewhere around your third eye. So kind of like in the center of your head though. So we're always looking to make that taller by dropping our shoulders further down and move fatter by widening our shoulders. Our second triangle is our chest triangle, and the base of that triangle is right up against the base of the neck triangle, so it's an upside down triangle. So it goes from shoulder to shoulder, and then its sides kind of terminate. If you feel on your rib cage how the ribs the floating ribs come up and you end up in a little point, there's a soft spot there, that's where those ends terminate. And we're always looking to fatten that one by expanding through the shoulders. And then on our back triangle, it mirrors the chest triangle. So it's exactly the same in the back. So shoulder to shoulder, the point comes just in the opposite side of where the point is on the front, so kind of mid-back. But the energy of these two triangles is different. So the chest triangle, if you were to think of the energy of the side pieces, they're kind of moving up and out. So they're reaching towards the base of their triangle. And on the back body, it's the opposite, where those lines are reaching towards the mid-back, so down and away from the shoulders. And I like to think of a cycle of energy here. So if we've got these two triangles kind of mirroring each other, one in the front body, one in the back body, and you imagine right where that hole, right where the points are, a hole, like a tunnel. And as I inhale, I bring my energy up and out. And then as I exhale, it wraps over my shoulders and comes down the back to those bottom points. And then that pause between the exhale and the inhale, it loops through, comes out the front. We inhale up, exhale down, and then through. So just take a second, connect your breath into that little moving breath meditation. And it should, if you're really feeling into that movement, that rotation of energy, it should start to feel almost like you've got balloons attached to your chest. And there's just this lifting that starts to happen because we are cycling that way in the body. We're cycling this way. So naturally, we are going to start to follow that pathway. And that's going to bring us to the fourth triangle that I want to talk about, which is, let's call it the Hara triangle because it is in our Hara, our third chakra. And I want you to think of that triangle as kind of right under the breast tissue is the base of it, and it reaches down to your belly button. And I want you, especially when we start to open the chest, open the heart, obviously is the whole focus of this, the tendency is to start to kind of arch in the low back. So So as the heart comes forward, the ribs pop up and forward, and the low back kind of arches. And we want to resist that. So the heart is welcome to rise and open, and the chest gets nice and light and fluffy. Think of like a bird, just like all happy and puffed up. But we want those ribs to integrate down. So this is all about integration. So when we think of that, I like to think of it almost like a garage door. Like my abdominals are strong and the abs energy kind of moves up in the body. And my ribs are like a garage door, and they're just kind of sliding down. So they're lengthening down over top so that I don't end up here. I can still keep this beautiful lift, but I can maintain the integrity of my core by finding that opposition. So if you were here last week, we talked a lot about opposition. Finding the opposition. As I go up, I have to go down somewhere else to match it. So just feeling that broadening of the upper front body moving up and the lower front body or front torso moving down. And then we've got our pubic bone triangle. We're getting all sorts of triangle-y today. Pubic bone triangle. And I want you to think of that as like your hip points are the bottom of your triangle, and the top is the belly button. So we've got the ribs moving down, and then we've got that pubic bone triangle reaching up. So there's a very soft, without rounding the low back, there's a very soft traction between my bottom ribs and my pubic bone. So they're just kind of like reaching for each other. And that is going to lengthen my low back triangle. So we'll have two. Let's talk about low back and sacrum. We've got the sacrum. So again, we're gonna call the top of the pelvis, your iliac crest. We're gonna call that the base of both of the triangles. And the sacral triangle moves down towards the tailbone, towards your butt crack. And the low back one moves up towards the shoulder triangle. And as my pubic bone and my pubic triangle gently reaches up, I can lengthen through my low back. But in order to not completely round or here, I have to reach up through that low back triangle, okay? So we're always finding opposition. My brain seems to be working anatomically with triangles these days, so that's how we're going to talk about it. So you're finding balance through opposition. I feel like we often think of the word opposition as like some political thing, like the opposition. And learning to let go of that kind of group consciousness definition of the word, and understand that opposition can bring about balance. And if we're always kind of looking for ways to expand and contract at the same time, that's how we're going to constantly stay in balance. Because if you blow up a balloon and one part of the balloon just like expands and the rest of it doesn't, well, that part that's super expanding is going to pop. And that's what happens in our body. If we're constantly coming into these chest openers and we're just like, oh, yes, let the honey of my heart flow. And we're not paying attention to finding opposition in our body, we are going to throw out different places in our body. We're going to pinch in the places where we actually need to find that opposition, like the low back, the sacrum, and we're eventually going to overstretch the areas that we are opening up because we're not finding that opposition. So it's a lot of triangles to take in right now, but just kind of feeling that in your body. Just little triangles everywhere. then we're gonna open up the chest and the back with a little bit of a restorative pose. So 2 options, you can use a ball that's kind of, or a towel that's rolled up. You can also use your blocks. So both options are available to you. If you're using the ball, you're just gonna place the ball right in your heart center. If you're using the blocks, you're gonna place the block right in the heart center. If you're using a bound up towel, you're gonna do the same. So we're gonna start on our chest. I'm gonna demonstrate with both the blocks and the ball. Now you have to kind of find the place that works best for you here, because everybody's body is built differently. So you want to get that, I find that it has to be, you know, on the ribs still. It can't go into the soft part of the belly for me. It might be different for you. And then I rest my head on the other block, whether it's up on its end or it's down. Really depends on what level of opening you're looking for. And then you're just going to kind of take the arms into a wide sphinx. And depending on the day, I will use blocks or a ball, depending on my mood. So does it feel like I need something that's really firm and stable? Am I looking for that stability in my life, or am I looking for softness? So if I'm looking for softness, I'll come into the ball. And we're just going to take about a minute here breathing. And we're doing 2 things. In the front of the body, we're compressing the sternum. So the sternum is made up of our ribs and then cartilage. So it's movable. But because of the way we live our lives, we're starting to get some atrophy through that tissue. That cartilage is stiffening instead of being nice and soft and spongy and springy. So we're compressing that to start to bring a little more mobility into the front body. And then we're really focusing on relaxing through the upper back so that we can get a really soft stretch through there. And I want you to focus your breath actually into your chest. Very rare I'll have you do this, but I want you to see if you can get the breath really just moving through the upper torso instead of engaging into the lower torso. And really focusing on these last couple of breaths on your inhale, taking it to a place that's almost uncomfortably full on your inhale. So inhaling as much as you can, and then seeing if you can squeeze more air into the lungs and make it right on the verge of feeling like, okay, this is uncomfortable. This kind of hurts. And you're gonna come out of this and then slowly roll over onto your back. So another thing, as you get yourself settled into this next pose, so you're either gonna put the ball right between the shoulder blades or put the block between the shoulder blades. Both options, you have the other option of putting a pillow or a block behind your head, whatever works for you. So I spent the weekend watching heart anatomy videos, as you do, and we were looking at adhesions. He was dissecting the heart and talking about how we are just really one continuous piece of tissue. It's only when we dissect ourselves that we can separate, or we do separate. So there's a lining that comes along the underside of your ribs up towards your sternum, and then it folds in on itself and wraps back around and wraps around the heart. Or it wraps kind of on top of the pericardium. And the pericardium is a sac that holds the heart, and it's got multiple layers to it as well. But he was showing all these adhesions that when these sacs don't move smoothly, how it affects the beating of our heart. And then once you cut all the way through that, you can start to peel away the sac of the heart, around the heart, and the fascia around the heart. And you see all these little adhesions between the heart and the actual sac that is in. And the heart doesn't just beat, it doesn't pump how we think of something pumping. It actually twists. So the bottom goes one way and the top goes the other way. And we're spinning our blood, and that's how it moves through the body. It's the spinning action. Well, you can imagine if you've got adhesions through the sternum, through any part of the chest cavity really, beating is one thing, but if we're twisting, we need a lot more mobility, okay? So we're making our heart work harder, the more docile, maybe that's not the right word, a life we're living, the less movement we're bringing in and the more of this action that we've got going on, the more of the like phone, car, computer thing we have going on, the more docile our body becomes, the more docile our fascia becomes, the more sticky it becomes. We start to lose the ability to move in any plane appropriately. But we never really think, oh geez, not moving my chest is actually making it harder for my heart to do its job. Because now I'm getting adhesions with all this connective tissue and it's constricting my heart. So that's why we started on our stomachs. We started with compressing that space and trying to get the sternum, which very rarely, I mean, nobody massages your sternum. I mean, I massage people's sternums, but if you go in for a typical massage, you're not going to get your sternum massaged. They're not going to be working on peeling away the layers of connective tissue around the breastbone, typically. And we really need that. We need that on a physical level, and we need that on an energetic level, an emotional level, as we keep tightening and tightening and tightening around our hearts and becoming less and less able to hear people external from ourselves. And now that we've kind of opened up that a little bit, we are letting gravity do its thing by compressing the backside of the heart and allowing the chest to fall open. And to come out of this, I want you to bend your knees, bring your feet flat onto the floor. Tuck your tailbone a little bit so that you can really feel the rib cage triangle and the pubic bone triangle reaching towards each other. I want you to take your hands behind your head. Let those elbows drop out for a second. That should feel delightful. And I want you to really feel the ribcage triangle reaching for the pubic bone triangle. So what that's going to look like and feel like in your body is that the waistline is shrinking and my chest is perfectly capable of staying exactly where it is. I start to get a deeper stretch through my side bodies and through my underarms out towards my elbows. But for the most part, my face is looking exactly where it was. My chest is looking right where it is. My ribs have tucked down. So this is kind of like an abdominal crunch without lifting the head at all. And then if you move, because a lot of times we think crunch, we think our forehead leads, but I want you to think, no, my abs lead, and then my ribs lead. And then what happens if I start to really contract through my front lower torso and let the head come up by reason of necessity. Like my abs are doing so much work that my chest is followed and my head has to follow now. But I'm not really holding my head up. It's just moved with the rest of my body because it's attached. And then I continue to crunch and I only start to look towards my elbows because of necessity, because that's where my abdominals and my torso has taken my chest and my shoulders and my head. And then if I do the same thing, where I just start to soften and release, just ever so slightly so that the weight of my head drops my head back, opens my chest and my shoulders, and then once my head relaxes on the ground, I can start to relax the abdominals, and then do it again. So I tuck my tail, pubic bone towards the belly, ribs towards the belly. Everything engages in the lower torso, and then I start to use that to pull the ribs down, pull the heart forward. The head's just coming along for the ride until I look between the knees, not because I'm cranking my head, but because that's where my core has taken my head. And then I start to release the core and let the head fall back. The elbows fall open. And it's controlled. It's nice and slow. So it's as much of a core workout on the way up as it is on the way down. And so my head touches, I relax for a breath, and then I do the same thing again. I tuck the tail, pubic bone towards the belly button, ribs towards the belly button towards the low back. Everything pulls me up, and everything drops me back. Very controlled, and my head is just coming along for the ride. I'm not really getting any tension in my neck. So just do this 2 more times at your own pace. Make sure you're breathing through this. And this is just core articulation. This is not meant to be like, oh yeah, my abs are super sore. This is to articulate and get things to fire one at a time, to teach your body that it has a choice on how it wants to move and how it engages with the world around it. Beautiful. Next time you come up, I want you to hang out there. So it's a really strong carving out of the belly. And as we make this kind of carved out bowl, it's like the rims of the bowl, the sides of the bowl are trying to move towards each other. And really I can let go of my head, and there's not a whole lot of tension going on in my neck and shoulders. And then from here, you can grab hold of your legs and pull yourself up, or if you feel really confident and comfortable, you can continue to carve and roll yourself up. So you end up back here in the seated position. And then we're going to roll over and come into puppy dog or anahata. So we start off on all fours. We keep the butt right on top of the hips, right where it is, so stacked. And then we walk the hands forwards and drop the chest down and the forehead down. Now, this might not be available to everybody. You might find that you're kind of like, here. That's fine. You can always bring a block under your forehead for extra support if you need it. You can bring a block under your chest and under your head. You can bring a ball in under your chest if you want a little more softness. If you want to feel like you've got something to melt into. Or if you need more, you can put the blocks on any height that you need and drop down from there. So we're going to start just by letting the whole body like splay out. Just get wide and loosey-goosey. And then I want you to start to think of lengthening the low back and dragging the rib cage, the hara triangle, and the pubic bone triangle together. And that should start to burn like a mother through the chest and shoulders. So yeah, when we're completely relaxed, we get a nice stretch. When we start to engage and integrate the heart opener into the core, we actually deepen our stretch. And let your core relax. And let's do 2 rounds of that. So I want you to inhale, widen through your rib cage. Keep that wideness, and as you exhale, draw the rib cage and the pubic bone towards each other. And then inhale, soften that, widen through the rib cage. Keep that wideness. Exhale, lengthen the low back. Draw together the rib cage and the pubic bone. And then inhale, relax. And as you exhale, you're going to walk your hands back and under your shoulders. And we're going to meet down on our bellies for a nice deep chest opener. And then we're going to get flowing a bit. So you're going to keep your right hand next to your right shoulder, and your left hand is going to reach out at your side, shoulder height, palm flat down on the floor. And then you're going to walk your fingertips away from you, your left fingertips away from you as you roll over onto your left side. So you stack one hip on top of the other, one shoulder on top of the other, and then the head can hang out on the floor, or you can grab a block or a blanket, whatever you got. Now, if this is nice and open for you and you want to go deeper, you can bend that right knee and drop it back and continue to let the pelvis roll towards the floor behind you. My right hand is going to stay active on the floor in front of my chest. So it's pushing me deeper into the pose. Now, tendency is for our butt to want to flat backwards here and our belly to want to hang. So I want you to think about gently dragging the pubic bone and those bottom ribs towards each other. And just notice how that also deepens the stretch in the left arm. Spread your left fingers. Try to push that left arm down into the floor. And you're going to roll yourself back onto your belly. And we're going to switch sides. So now the right arm comes straight out, shoulder height, palm flat on the floor. Walk the fingertips away as you roll onto your right side. Support the head if you need to. Left foot can come behind you if that's comfortable, and you can keep letting the pelvis drop towards the floor. Left hand's in front of you, continuing to rotate you open, and then you're going to engage the pubic bone and the bottom ribs towards each other. So the core turns on. I feel that immediately through my collarbone. And then I spread my fingers and push the floor down with the right hand to get a deeper stretch even. You roll yourself back center. We're going to do a little core work here. I want you to grab your blocks. If you don't have blocks, you can also roll up towels, 2 towels. And this is just going to be kind of a fun thing right in the beginning before we get into the core. You're going to wedge your chest down between the 2 blocks, so they're just right up against my rib cage. My head is going to fall towards the floor, and my shoulders just relax on the blocks. So really this is just taking a second to put our shoulders in place, because we often like to round on the shoulders. So this is like resting in a really anatomically correct way, or ergonomically correct way. Palms are flat down on the floor, thumbs look out. And we're starting with our forehead resting on the floor, but I want you to start thinking of your jaw being connected to the base of the skull, and a string being connected to the base of the skull. And as somebody pulls on that string and picks your head up, not high, we want to just bring it so that essentially your ears are in line with your shoulders and you're looking straight down at the floor. So the chin's not falling and it's not tucking. It's as if the chin is the support for the base of the skull, which is being pulled back. So they are in one line. Good. And then relax the head back down. And someone pulls that string again and we pull it up. We've got a beautiful external rotation through the arms here. We're looking straight down at the floor. And our shoulders are relaxed. So we're just using the muscles right in the back of the neck and dropping the head back down. And then pulling back up. Looking straight down. That chin is the base of the skull. And lowering down. And coming back up. And lowering down. Now we're going to bring the head back up. And the chin is the base for the base of the skull. And now I want you to hold here and start to pull your belly button in towards your low back. So the ribs and the pubic bone gently reach towards each other as the belly carves up and away from the floor. So we get really strong through that core. We shrink our waistline. And then reach back through your toes, get longer from the rib cage to the toes. And then lengthen so much that you start to pull the legs up off the ground. So we're coming into a little bit of a back bend here. We're reaching back through the legs. We could really get the legs up by pushing the belly down and yanking the head forward, but we're trying to integrate here. So the belly is nice and tight. The legs are reaching, and as the legs reach, we find opposition by continuing to drag the pubic bone towards the belly and lengthen the tail towards the heels. And then if we imagine a string right behind the base of the heart, we can start to pick up the chest more, but now pull the ribs down towards the belly button as you pick the shoulders and the chest up. So we find opposition through the front body even as we try to stretch it. And then lengthen through the back body even as you're contracting it. And if you'd like, you can pull those hands up off the ground and reach those back as well. And then slowly lower everything back down. Bring the arms straight out, shoulder height. Same thing. We engage the head first. We bring the head in line with the rest of the spine. We engage the belly. Ribs and pubic bone towards each other. Lengthening the low back, reach through your toes. Pick those legs up. You reach so far that you pick the legs up. And as you pick those legs up, you're lengthening your butt towards your heels. Belly is still pulling up and away from the mat, so we're not pushing into the mat. We're trying to lift the body away from the mat everywhere. And then bring the arms up. And now maybe lift the chest up. And as you do that, your belly is going to want to push for the floor. Resist it. Draw your belly up. Lengthen through the front body and shorten through the front body. Lengthen through the back body and shorten through the back body. And then lower yourself down. One more. We're going to take the arms straight in front of us as if we're holding a ball. Actually, take one of your blocks. The other block you can set off to the side. Take one of the blocks and hold it between your hands, okay? Thumbs pointed up. Pull the shoulders down the back and drop the head down. So start with the head. The chin is the base of the skull. And then move to the abs. Start to pull the belly up and away from the floor, drawing the ribs and the pubic bone together. Reach through your toes so much that they start coming up off the ground. So we're getting longer to bend backwards, essentially. And then think about dragging the shoulders towards the ceiling. Still pull the belly up and away from the floor. And now, see if you can keep that belly lifting up and float the arms up. Figure out where you need to get longer and where you need to get shorter. Keep breathing. And then lower it slowly down. Pressing back into child's pose. So tendency on poses like that, especially when we're coming out of them, is to just drop. Like, oh, thank God it's over. Blech. But really, the gold is in being able to control yourself coming down or coming out of a pose. That's typically where we hurt ourselves. We don't hurt ourselves coming into a forward fold. We hurt ourselves coming out of a forward fold. It's, you know, it's going to bend up to pick something off the floor. You don't just bend over and hurt yourself. It's usually that moment when you try to come up that you throw your back out. So you want to start to have that control coming out, because so often we're focused on getting where we're going, and then once we're there and it's time to come out, we just like, oh, fuck it. We let everything go. So now I completely lost my thought on where we were going with this. Come back onto, oh, that's where we were going. Sphinx pose. For a little bit of chest and quad opening at the same time. So you are going to bend your left knee, foot towards the sky, and your right arm is going to turn to look towards the left side of your mat, okay? Left arm is going to reach back for the inside of the foot. So a lot of times we'll come into these poses on the outside. The reason I teach it on the inside is because we spend so much time in internal rotation in our shoulders, typing, driving, So, okay, so I want to take us into external rotation as much as possible. Teaching the body that external rotation is where it wants to live, at least in the upper body. So notice if your knee wants to sneak out, hug it in. If you're finding that it really wants to sneak out, you can challenge yourself more by putting a block between your knees and making sure that you hang on to that block. Option 2, okay? Now, depending on where you are in your body with your flexibility, this right here might be plenty, okay? For those of us who want to go deeper, you can start to bend the elbow. And as you do that, I want you to still keep that external rotation just by rotating the fingers down, and the elbow points up towards the sky, and then I pull down here. Okay? Now, if you've got any type of shoulder stuff going on where this feels really not great in your upper body, the other option is to take a strap and come here and pull from here, okay? You're not gonna get the chest opener, but you can still work on your triangles and keeping your chest open. Wherever you are, I want you to release back to your hand or just hang on to the strap wherever you are. And then I want you to use your foot to kick back. And as you kick back, that's going to peel your chest up. Okay? Now, that takes me into a back bend. There's lots of bendiness happening in my back. It's a back bend. I want you to think, draw the pubic bone and the ribs together, lengthen through that low back. And then I push a little bit through my right arm. And I'm kicking, kicking, kicking. I mean, it should just burn. That left leg should burn. And release. Whew. Take a child's pose for a moment. I'm going to switch legs. I'm going to rotate around just so you can see me better. we start off in Sphinx. Again, you can have that block between the knees. Might as well. We've got all these props. Might as well use them. Bend the right leg now. Foot towards the sky. Left arm is going to turn and look over towards the right side of your mat. Reach back, grab hold of that foot, or wrap towel or a block around it. And we're in external rotation. And then you just start to pull. Pull that leg in. And as you do that, again, you're squeezing those knees towards each other or into the block. This is block. I need you to act accordingly. So elbow, if you're bending it in, your elbow goes up, fingers go down. We're really pulling, and then we're dropping the right rib cage towards the floor. And then you are going to kick that leg back, grab hold of the foot again, or you're welcome to have the strap around the foot. And you're going to kick that right leg back. And that's going to immediately, boom, lift your chest up. Okay, so I'm pushing my knee down, I'm pushing my foot back. And then draw your belly in towards your low back. So pubic bone and ribs come together, protects the low back, provides integrity. You should be able to feel that. You let the belly go and keep kicking, it's soft and gooey. If you engage, you feel the integrity of your torso, of your core. And it feels like somebody could come up and just like knock you over here. And you're not going to hurt your back at all. And then gently release. Child's pose. If you've got socks on, you're going to want to pull those off. So we're going to finish up some Surya Namaskara B. It's a little flow now that we've kind of really gotten everything open and gotten some connection into the pelvis. We're not going to take it through warrior, we're going to take it through crescent lunge. So go ahead and bring yourself into a downward facing dog. And just work out your down dog for a second. It's kind of the first hamstring thing we've done. So walk your dog and check in with your triangles. Even though we're in this kind of 90-degree forward fold dog position, we still want to find that opposition. We still want a nice long low back. We want an engaged torso. We want a nice open upper back and chest. A nice long neck. And walk your hands backwards towards your feet into a forward fold. Continue to carve your belly out here. Gives you a little more space to fold into. Shoulders soften. Shift your weight forwards and backwards. Kind of twist it side to side, so swing your hips side to side. Stopping center, you're going to bend your knees and roll your spine up. Head is the last thing to come up. Yeah. And we're going to take a step to the top of the mat. And just before we get going on things, I want to talk about how we're going to finish all of our each round. So when we come from our forward fold, I'll have you bend your knees completely and ragdoll up. And I really want you to use this carving out position to roll yourself up so that it is an articulation of like one vertebrae and then the other. So that as you come up, your shoulders are actually forward and they roll up and back and down, but your core is strong so you don't, they roll up and back and down, and then there's this scoop that's gonna lift us right in. So we have this big like, it's a breath there. It should really feel, it should feel like that, like when you've been holding your breath underwater for a while, and you, like a very expansive opening aspect, if that makes any sense at all. You'll see when you get there, feel into it. So start at the top of your mat, feet hip width apart. Your tail is down, your pubic bone is up, your torso is nice and strong and integrated. Your chest and back triangles are open, your neck triangle is open. When we inhale, sweep the arms up as if we're scooping up water. We exhale, fold forward. Inhale, hands up under your shins, lengthen out the spine, nice and flat. And then exhale, melt down, step your left foot back. Inhale, start at your tail. Pull your tail in under you, pull the pubic bone towards your belly, and roll up. So see how that feels different when we start from one place, we let that wave move through the whole spine. And you can bring the arms up if you want, but again, we're not going here. We're integrating, okay? And then come all the way down. Step the right foot back. You can take a vinyasa if you want, or you can just roll through your spine up and back into downward facing dog. If you know that you have a tight chest in general, I would suggest avoiding vinyasas. Breathing in your down dog, finding all your triangles, a nice happy place. And then inhale the right leg up. Sorry, the left leg up. Pull it in, roll through your spine, step the foot forward. Roll through the spine, so tail leads you into this. You come up, maybe the arms come up, maybe they don't, maybe they hang out here. Okay, but either way, everything, we're lengthening through the low back, we're pulling up through the belly, and then coming down. You're gonna put your weight in your left foot, step your right foot forward, inhale, flatten out, exhale, melting down, bend your knees, inhale, roll up, exhale, round up and down, inhale, sweep the arms up, exhale, fold forward, inhale, lengthen out the spine, exhale, melt down, right foot back, inhale, round the tail, come all the way up, exhale, hold, engage your torso as you tip the chest up, and then exhale, hands down. Left foot back, inhale and plank, exhale, roll up and back or chaturanga. Breathing here in your down dog. Finding those happy triangles. Inhale the right leg up. Exhale it forward. Tuck the tail, let that pull you up. Sweeping the arms up. We take a full inhale here. And then exhale, hands down. Weight into the right foot, step the left foot forward. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, bow. Bend the knees, roll up. Shoulders back and down. Inhale, sweep up. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, left foot back. Tuck your tail, inhale, roll up. Exhale, hold. Inhale, open a little more. Exhale, hands down. Right foot back. Inhale and plank. Exhale, vinyasa or up dog. Lengthen everywhere that you want to lengthen. Shorten everywhere you want to shorten. Find your oppositions. Inhale, left leg up. Exhale, roll forward. Inhale, roll up. Exhale, sink deeper. Inhale, lengthen more. Exhale, hands down. Inhale, weight forward to the left foot. Step the right foot forward. Lengthen. Exhale, bow. Bend the knees, roll up with an inhale. Exhale, shoulders back and down. Inhale, sweep it up. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, right foot back. Inhale, roll up. Exhale, sink deeper. Inhale, lengthen more. Exhale, hands down. Left foot back. Hold for an inhale. Exhale, rolling through a vinyasa or down dog. Pausing for a couple breaths. Find your oppositions. Inhale, sweep the right leg up. Exhale, step forward. Inhale, roll up through the spine, nice and tall. Exhale, sink deeper. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, hands to the floor. Shift your weight in your right foot. Inhale, step forward and lengthen the spine. Exhale, bowing down. This time, bend your knees, sink your butt all the way down to the floor. And drop yourself back for Shavasana. Whew. Wiggle side to side. Cover yourself with a blanket if you need to. And we just built a little bit of heat. We built a heart rate going up and maybe you're a little out of breath. Try to keep your mouth closed. Just breathing through your nose. Allowing the body to slowly soften and slow down. And start to lengthen out your breath. Augment it, make it bigger, rounder, fuller. I'm going to come out of this in a very un-yoga-like way because I want you to see how integrating can take you up off the mat. So lengthen your low back, tuck the tail, pull the pubic bone towards the belly, pull the ribs down towards the belly. Pull your belly down as if you're trying to get it to push into the floor. Pull your shoulders away from your ears and actually rotate so much that the hands kind of reach up. So we're not rounding in the shoulders. Chest is still open, and I'm just kind of like I'm gonna hold something. I'm gonna take a deep breath in, and exhale, really punch my belly down and lift up into boat pose. And then lower all the way back down. Just hover, and then punch the belly again. Lift up, and then lower slow. Slow, slow, slow. Hover. Last time. Punch and lift. Beautiful. Cross the legs. Oh, bring yourself all the way up to seated. What a peaceful way to bring ourselves out of Shavasana. Go ahead and find a seated position. Close your eyes, take a couple breaths again. In through your nose, out through your mouth. Bring your hands together at your heart center. Thank you guys so much for a very slow, articulated class, but some really kick-ass work at the same time. So doing less, yet doing more. Thank you so much. Namaste.